Hello Year 5. For today's lesson you'll need your drawing from last week as well as coloured pencil crowns or felt tips. Not both, one or the other. So today we are going to be adding colour to our Hundertwasser pieces. And we'll talk a bit how we can do that. Now there's 3 different levels that I am expecting to see work at. So some of you will be able to add colour to the image by observing the image very carefully. Others will add colour and some tone to the image, and then some of you will start to blend colours accurately by observing the original image. Now what I'd like all of you to try and achieve today, no matter which one of these levels that you are working at, is I'd like you all to try and achieve a smooth render. That's the basic skill that I'd like you to work on today, smooth render. And I'll be modelling that to you later in the PowerPoint. So we're going to be able to recreate an artwork using colour and shape. We looked at shape and proportion last week, and this week we're focusing on colour. Here's some examples of the work that you did last week, focusing on Hundertwasser's pieces and looking particularly at shape and proportion. These are just a few good examples. Some of you went and challenged yourselves and chose a more difficult building, and others chose a slightly simpler building but really focused on those proportions and that detail. Before you begin to add colour to your drawing, can you all just make sure that you have actually rubbed out, erased your planning grid? So this planning grid, carefully rub it out so you rub out none of the other lines that you have drawn. Now, we're going to start to talk about adding colour, and I want us to look at these 3 examples of how colour was added. So if you have a look at this example, you can see they used a darker tone towards the edges, lighter tone further away from the edges, darker tone towards the edges, lighter tone further away from the edges. And at the end they went and did a black outline. I don't want anybody using black at these beginning stages. So if you could just go to your pencil pot right now, I'm going to mine, remove the black from the pencil pot so it's gone, and remove the black pencil, if you're using pencils, from your tin so it's gone. That would be brilliant. I don't want you using it yet. Black is in order to highlight certain elements of the picture. We're not colouring anything in black or rendering it black. So these are our 3 images that we were studying, and this is not white. Okay, to start with, this is grey. We also spoke about which images had the biggest backgrounds, and we have to think about that again today. Once we finish doing our foreground, adding colour to our foreground, which images actually have quite a large background. So if you have a look at this image, it's got quite a large background. So when we get to that point, you may want to go and take out your pencil and go do some pattern work in the background. So you do not have such a large negative space to add colour to. Now, adding colour today. There's lots of colour in all the images. You can be a bit creative with the colour. If you don't have the exact colour, I'd like you to be a bit creative with the colour and do it as close to colour as possible. So you are going to have the original images on your screen. So these are choose your original images, have it on your screen so you can keep looking at tone, dark and light areas. And the first thing I want you to give a go, practice with, is rendering areas smoothly. So using your coloured felt tips or pens, you're going to practice rendering an area smoothly. I'm going to show you that as well before I skip off that and go on to my visualizer, which is a little bit temperamental, this visualizer. So we'll try that again. Not sure why it's temperamental. There we go. So I'm going to do it with pencil first of all, coloured pencil, and every time I touch it the lead must be just a little bit sensitive. See if we can get that back. Come on, magic. Come back to me. There we go. So I'm going to show you an area with pencil first, and I'm actually just going to choose a random colour because what I want to really show you is that smooth rendering. So if this area, you've done lines to indicate this area, for example this area, and you know it's going to be a similar colour to this area, you work on one small area at a time. I don't want you to go over the top of a large area, it's one small area at a time. And you go around the outline to indicate what small area you are working on. And then you start to think about the direction that you are moving your pencil in. So it will be one direction, starting with one layer, one direction. I've created a lovely smooth render, and in the areas where I want it to be slightly darker, so usually towards the edges, I can add another layer, still thinking about the movement and the direction of my pencil. Okay, so that's one small area. Then I move on to the next area. I'm doing this specifically to show you that I don't want you just to take a colour and colour in one large area. You're working on a small area at a time. So the outline, think about the direction that you're going to move your pencil in, create a smooth render, one layer, and then when you'd like it to be darker, you add another layer to that render. So that's a smooth render using pencil. Then if you're going to get a little bit brave, you can start to add tones, so darker tones and lighter tones. For example, I'm going to do this small area using green. I'm not sure it's green on the original, I should really be looking at the original. But let's just do this for showing you what we're going to do. Think about the direction of your line. And nice smooth render using the green. Now, green. Which two colours is green made up of? Yep, did I hear you say it? We've got yellow and blue. See if I can find my blue. So green is made up of yellow and blue. So when I want to show lighter areas on this green area, I can add a bit of yellow to those areas. When I want to show darker areas, and I've died again. Let's see if it comes back on. There we go. I add, oh dear, not happy with me. I had a little bit of blue. Okay, now quite a nice technique that was used when using the felt tips. Let me just grab my felt tip. Is that you might have noticed in that first picture they used quite a little bit of tone, and they used line to show their tone. So they wrapped the line. You could do area in light colour, and then you could take a different green, maybe a darker green, and show your darker areas by layering your colour, layering that colour. So it's not just smooth render, you start to layer the colour. So you start off by creating a smooth render. When you feel comfortable and you have created a smooth render and you've thought about the direction of your pencil and you're able to go in one direction and there's no white gaps, then you can move on to showing some tone. Okay? If you don't get to showing tone today and you're only working on smooth render, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I want you to work on smooth render initially, and from smooth render, once you've achieved that, move on to the next step. Don't try and complete the next step until you are actually able to colour or render using smooth render. So until that render is smooth and you're able to create a smooth render, then you can start thinking about tone. Let's go back to our PowerPoint. So level 1 to render areas smoothly. Everybody would like you to do level 1 today. Level 2, when you start to blend colours and add tone. when rendering. And then finally, when you finish colouring in the whole picture, there's colour all over that page. There's not one white gap, and only when there's not one white gap, you can go and emphasise areas using black outlines. If you struggle to control your pen or your pencil, please don't complete the final step. Just leave it as it is. If you're happy how it looks, leave it as it is. You don't have to do the black outlines. Black outlines are optional. Okay, then we looked at that background area, that negative space. This is a bit of a star challenge for those people that already challenged themselves with their choice of image last week. If you selected this image, you've got quite a big blue background space. So you could go and add some pattern work to that empty background space. So you don't have as much negative space. You could add some pattern work, and then you could go add colour to that pattern work. So you don't have that big empty space where your pens are probably going to run out of colour, your arm's going to fall off. You break that space up using pencil into shapes and patterns like this example, or this example, or this example, and then you add colour to that area. Now, you've done the star challenge if you had a background space. If you don't have background space, you can't do it. Don't worry about it. And then if you can't do that, I'd like you to focus on accurate observations. I don't want to see any white space. If you think something's white, it's probably grey. It's not the same colour as your page. So be very careful with that. Step 5, if you want to emphasise areas using black outlines. Now, when you've finished, come back to this page and let's have a look on how well you've done today. Did you observe the original image? If you did, big tick to you. Were you able to render areas smoothly using coloured pencil? That's my big focus today, thinking about what direction you're going. If you're colouring in a squarish shape, you will go round the edge and then one direction. If you're colouring in a circular shape, I know I've taught you this in class, you will go in a circular motion in order to get that smooth render. And also it gets the viewer's eye to move in the direction of the shape, so it's quite a useful tool. Then, did you start to blend colours? Have you used layers? And I don't mean creating holes in the page. Be very careful if you're using felt tips. Okay, don't rub the paper until you wear the paper away. If you've got a lot of negative space, if you put some pattern work in the background to add to that negative space and added colour. How does your image compare to the original image? And then, my favourite part, remember to upload it to Google Classroom, and then your teacher can give you some individual feedback. I cannot wait to see these pieces today. Can't wait to see them on Google Classroom, and I bet some of your parents will be extremely impressed with you guys, and we'll have some of these artworks going up in the walls of your homes, on the walls of your homes. That will be amazing. So, until next week, look after yourselves. Actually, next week is a holiday, so have a good rest. I will see you soon. Bye for now.